listening to Stories from Real Life, a podcast by engaging storytellers for engaged story listeners. Here's your host, author and journalist, Melvin E. Edwards.
Hello, and welcome to this May 14th edition of Stories from Real Life. I'm your host, Melvin E. Edwards, and I'm here at my home base in Texas, while my guests this week are stationed on a military base in Kaiserslautern, Germany. Shout out to the U.S. military all around the world, but especially right there in Germany. Two of my three guests are military personnel, and all three are also baseball players for the Kaiserslautern Bears. It's the middle of the afternoon where I am, and the middle of the night where they are, so I appreciate their willingness to participate in this episode.
When you think about Germany, you probably think about beer, bratwurst, and sauerkraut. You might even think about beautiful castles, fast trains, and Oktoberfest. These are all parts of the German culture, but for the guests on today's episode, they want you to think about baseball. Yup, you heard that right. Baseball. I invite you to sit back and enjoy today's story about a diverse group of baseball players in the largest American community outside the United States. They are ambassadors both for the United States, but also America's favorite pastime. Here's your host, Melvin E. Edwards.
On the line, we have Antonio Lopez, Fraynel Mercado, and Alex Torres. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
First, I want to thank you for your service, guys. And then second, I want to thank you for bringing people together around the world around the great game of baseball. So Antonio Lopez is the coach and a center fielder for the team. He was born in Panama City, Panama. His parents were U.S. service members, and his mother was from Germany originally. And she immigrated to the United States and joined the military. And Antonio holds dual citizenship between the U.S. and Germany and played college baseball at Miami-Dade in Miami, Florida. Fraynel Mercado is a shortstop on the team. He was born in the Dominican Republic. His family moved to Houston, Texas when he was 8 years old. His wife is German, and all three of his kids have dual citizenship with Germany and the United States. And he is currently serving as the Data Operations Chief Warrant Officer. And then Alex Torres is a first baseman and pitcher on the team. He was born in Columbia, South Carolina, and graduated from college in South Carolina after graduating from high school in Texas. He played baseball at Benedict College for 2 years, and he's currently serving as the Human Resources Major in the U.S. Army, and he's been in the military for 18 years. So my first question, gentlemen, is could you just tell us a little bit about what the Kaiserslautern military community is?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So I'm Alex Torres. So the Kaiserslautern military community, or the KMC for short, is pretty much as close as you can get to America outside of the U.S., essentially. We've got at least 60,000, somewhere around there, service members. That's not including U.S. contractors and family members in this area. So it's almost like a home away from home, kind of. We do have some of the luxuries from home on the base. And the community here is actually very supportive of the military. So I think we actually generate a lot of in the economy and out in the community. So that it definitely there's that relationship with us and the local German populace to the point where you might go to some restaurants or some establishments and they might address you right away in English. So it's kind of nice for us. Some other areas in Germany where we have service members may not have that luxury of having such a robust American community right there. So, but here we had the luxury. But yeah, it's definitely unique.
It definitely sounds like it. So can you tell me a little bit about what makes your team different from other teams?
Yeah, so I think one of the unique things about our team this year is how diverse we are. This team could play in 3 different continents and fit right in. And that's because we have players from all over the world. We have Germans on our team. We have Americans, Dominicans, Venezuelans, Puerto Ricans. We have young. We have old. We have an Indian player and we have a Japanese player. And there are several players on our team that speak, 3 different languages. We also have that military presence and diversity within the team. So we have representation from the Army, the Air Force, the civilian populace. We have officers. We have enlisted. So a very diverse group. And what's cool about it is that when most people think of baseball in Germany, that's not what they envision. They don't envision a team like ours. So we're proud to represent the diversity and the uniqueness of the Kaiserslautern city, and we're proud to be ambassadors, for the city on the field.
All right, that sounds great. All right, how has the league's recent rule exception to allow more American players impacted team dynamics and performance?
Yeah, so I'll speak to that. So I had the privilege of playing this for the same club back in 2011, 2014 under the old rules, and for a few years this time as well. With the rule change, it's really changed the dynamic in that we can have a lot more of the Americans on the field, the foreign players, I should say, because we do have all the other nationalities there. But to me, it seems a lot more lively. I know you watch any World Baseball Classic and you see the Latin teams tend to have a little more flair to how they play. And they definitely bring that to the field. And it's just been really fun having everyone out there. I'm not to say it's not fun when it's under the old rules. It's just a little more exciting now.
All right. So can you guys share a moment or a game since the rule change? What makes it memorable?
So it's not really like a game or a moment, but an overall experience where prior there was a little bit less motivation, I guess, on the foreigner side because of the limitation of how many players you could have or foreign players you could have on the field, or specifically non-EU players. And so they were a little bit less motivated because they had to compete with each other. But ever since I was able to talk to the guys earlier in January when we got word of that they were going to make this change, everyone's been way more motivated. It's been more motivating for the foreign players to show up, but also for the German players because they know they have like more competition now. Because before they weren't really competing with the foreign players, just with each other. Now it's an overall competition in the team, and it brings just more motivation, more people showing up to practice, and that makes it a lot more fun from a coach perspective to actually want to show up and hold a good practice.
Okay, I just have a quick follow-up to that question. Are you playing in a league? Is there like a tournament? How do you determine who the best teams are?
So they do have a league system. So European sports in general have like a relegation promotion system, and that's across all sports in all countries in Europe. And that also applies to baseball in Germany. So we play in the 3rd tier, so the 3rd highest league from the top. And then we play league with other teams in the same region that are in that same tier. And then at the end of the season, so you play a double round robin against everybody. And then at the end of the season, the best team can qualify to promote to the next highest league. And then vice versa, the worst team out of the league above will have to relegate down to the league below.
Okay, so losers drop down, winners rise.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so what role do the Kaiserslautern Bears play in the local community?
So currently, it's not as big as we would like it to be due to the fact that other American sports have kind of overshadowed baseball in Kaiserslautern itself. And right now, like that's our goal this year is to kind of like work on making an impact on the city and like a presence, knowing that we've been a club that's been here for a very long time. And baseball is not like the most known sport, so not too many people are aware that we actually like have a club in Kaiserslautern. That's like one of the main reasons why we wanted to do this podcast, is to try to get like more awareness for that we actually have been here for a long time.
Okay, how long is a long time? How long have you been together?
We were established in 1990.
Okay, wow, that is a while. All right. So is baseball in the United States different from the baseball there that you play in Germany?
Yeah. So to me, I think it's more so you kind of spoke to it a little bit earlier. We tend to be a little more flamboyant in how we play. Definitely the Latin players we have on the team. The Germans in this league tend to be, I mean, they're more, I don't think they're more students of the game, but they're learning, right? So they're trying to study, and I don't want to say we take it for granted, but we really just go out there and play because we've done it for so long. And we see these guys come in here and they're really trying to understand the game. So there's that aspect behind it. But yeah, the whole relegation system, having that as a incentive to play better, or, you know, just the threat of getting relegated down, that's also different, you know. But there's a lot that comes with that, and we didn't really speak to it earlier. But, you know, with relegation and promotion, I think that, I mean, Antonio can speak to this a little more, but your program or your club has to offer more services, I think, than at that point if you like move up a league. You know, us, for example, our field is right now isn't to where it should be. We play on a makeshift kind of soccer field right now that we convert into a baseball field as best we can every game. Got a guy named Andy, him and his dad, his family, his mother, really big into the team. I don't know how long Andy's played on a team. It seems like forever.
Like 25 years.
Yeah, he's played on a team for like 25 years. His parents are really big and supporting the team. His dad is out there dragging our field. He builds batting cages for us. You know, he's out there helping put up all the nets and the fencing for the games. But it's just something we have to do because we don't have the luxury of our own field. You know, but yeah, so. Just things like that make it different. You know, I played baseball before in Mexico, and I played on clay fields too. So, you know, it's just different countries, different leagues, different flavors. You know, that's kind of what we're dealing with here. Not every team in our league has to deal with that same issue with the field. That's really just unique to us. We play with some other leagues that have a second league team in their club or a first league team in their club, so their field matches that level. You know, so they've got almost collegiate level fields. Meanwhile, they come play us and we're playing on clay fields. So,
Wow.
Yeah, that's just what we're dealing with here. But it's still fun. It's still baseball. You know, I'm just happy to be playing or able to play at my age.
All right, quick follow up to that. So, any other teams in the league have military personnel or military based, or are they all community based wherever they come from?
Same. So it's very similar to us. I mean, some leagues or some teams may be closer to a military facility, so they may have. I don't think they have as many military members playing for them as we do, but they may have one or two sprinkled in there, just because some players are willing to drive an hour or two just to play baseball. We just have that luxury of our teams right here in K-Town. So,
all right. So and this will sort of. Some of the answer may overlap here, but how do cultural differences influence the way baseball is played and perceived in Germany?
So, well, first of all, the most popular sport in Germany is soccer by far. And due to the fact that soccer is a simple to understand game when you're starting out, you know, the ball goes in the goal, right? And it's also less requirement of material because you can use different things to replace goalposts. You can always get a ball you can kick around and stuff, and you can meet up with your friends at the park or on the street. You don't have to have like any specific setup for that. Whereas because baseball is a little bit more rough to get starting, you know, because it is very complex role-wise compared to other sports, and also the fact that you do need a bat at least, you need like a glove, you need a ball, and that's not something that's easily accessible necessarily. So that makes it very hard for Germans to even like understand the basic idea of this sport. Whereas in the United States, you have the luxury of just growing up with it because of Major League Baseball, you know. Every kid's played Little League probably at some point in their life. So, and that makes it a little hard because then when we do get Germans or not just German, but like foreign players that are not from countries where baseball is very popular, come and want to play. The first like step is very hard because it's first like trying to get them to understand like the general gist of the sport. So because of like the cultural background of like different sports popularity in different countries, that makes it a little harder to kind of like make it more appealing, because baseball is a sport of failure. And if you show up and you swing a bat 100 times and only hit it 3 times, you feel like, I sucked. Whereas it's like that process that makes you actually like, part of baseball is learning to fail first before you can actually be good. And in soccer, you don't have that. And that's what I think makes it very hard for a lot of Germans that come from different sport backgrounds trying baseball.
All right, so a quick follow-up to that one. Has there been anybody who's shown up who's seen you practice or seen a game who really enjoyed it and like just said, I want to play, who has never, ever played baseball at any level before?
Yeah, we get that quite frequently, honestly. So most like Germans that show up, that message our email or that show up to practice are mostly Germans that either watched a baseball game on TV or they heard about baseball from a buddy or read something article somewhere online, and then they were like, I want to try this out. So they show up with no idea whatsoever what's going to happen or what's going on. But surprisingly, not surprisingly, but like a lot of them do find a way to want to stick with it because they do find it very enticing once they kind of like get the hang of it. It's just like that first step, getting a hang of it. And after they overcome that, a lot of them enjoy it.
Okay, that sounds fun. All right, so what challenges have you faced with integrating American and German playing styles? And then how have you overcome those challenges?
So Germans are very, very structured individuals. Germans pride themselves on their proficiency and their like directness of getting things done. Whereas, Americans are a little bit more laid back, a little bit more loose, a little bit more go with the flow. And so when it comes to like practices, I kind of have to find a balance between both where I don't make it like too easygoing, because then the Germans are going to kind of think it's a little too relaxed, and then not too strict, because then a lot of Americans will think like, this is, I'm here to have fun. I'm not here to, follow orders or whatnot. So kind of finding that balance is like the hardest part, to make it like reach both parties, where both parties are satisfied that it's, where they go home from practice and like, all right, that was a good practice.
Okay. So with being in the military, does that sort of help with the structure part that you're used to structure? So does that help fit in with the German style?
Yeah.
So first, I'm not in the military.
Okay.
I was just a dependent, just so I don't want that to get misrepresented out there. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd rather have one of these two take that question.
Yeah, I think like Antonio said, obviously, and like Alex mentioned, we have a lot of personality on the team, and that comes from a lot of the American guys. But overall, having that military background, at the end of the day, we understand that there's structure and that there's a hierarchy, and we support the club, the coach, anyone affiliated with the club in those positions. Hey, we're doing this in the best interest of the team, and so. Antonio is actually younger than several players on the team, but we know that he holds a position of authority, and so we know that, hey, at the end of the day, what he says, that's what we're going to do.
Okay, that sounds good. So you mentioned the term ambassador earlier. So how do you see the role of sports in fostering international relations and cultural exchange?
So sports provide an outlet for cultural exchange and breaking down barriers. We mentioned it earlier, how successful the World Baseball Classic was this past year. Just seeing all those nations, people from all those different cultures, just come together and rally behind the sport. That was awesome to see. And then being in Germany, we're aware of the global events that are going on right now. Being in the military and being a part of the community, everyone in the city, is just aware of what's going on in Europe at the moment. But baseball provides us with an outlet to decompress and then to share a passion. a lot of the guys on the team, just like Alex mentioned, we're making a lot of sacrifices, being out there in practice, balancing our work schedules. And so, the guys that are out there, we're out there because we love the sport. And, this team is so diverse, and, we're able to, to display that camaraderie and that unity, and obviously we're in a community in a corner of Germany, but we exemplify what those relationships could be like. Again, at the end of the day, structure, no structure, you agree with something or you don't. We are professionals at the end of the day, and we squash all of our differences, and we do what's best for the team. So I think this team is a great example of different cultures and different nationalities coming together and just working towards a common goal.
All right. So how do you balance the demands of military service with playing and training for baseball?
It can be challenging at times, not only for the military players, but for the players that have families as well. As a club, there are, certain level of commitment that's required from the individuals, but the club leadership is realistic about, the demands that it puts on us as players. And as a military member, there are times when we know, where we may be out of the country or we might be supporting, certain missions, but it often happens as well that we don't know when that happens. It could just be a call and saying, hey, get ready, we're going somewhere. And so, it requires, the dedication, but flexibility. A lot of players on the team. We have Chris Santos, Rob Matos, Steve Roy, Jon Williams. These are gentlemen that are working, doing their jobs, and then they come out and they help out with the youth teams. And then they stay for the men's, baseball practice. And again, that has to be, commended for what they're doing, for the program, for the city, their involvement with the kids. It's absolutely a challenge, but oftentimes when we talk about the military community, we cannot forget about, our dependents, which includes our spouses and our children, and they're a big part of that support system. So we couldn't do it without them. And so it always makes it a lot easier, to do something that we're passionate about when we have their support.
All right. So what are some of your personal goals that you want to achieve with the team?
So me personally, my personal goal is personally just for me to, be able to leave kind of like the players when they go out in the games or go out to practices, that there's one thing that I might have done in practice or talk to them about that sticks with them, that they can execute on. But as a player as well, my personal goal is just to play to the best of my ability that I know I'm capable of. And my goal with the team is this year to go undefeated in the league, which I'm pretty positive that we can do because we are one of the better teams in the league.
Yeah, so my personal goal is to one, obviously play quality baseball, but obviously with the team in mind, and also helping develop the other players, giving back to the youth baseball team. Those kids are hungry. They just need that guidance and that experience. And just in the past year, they've gotten their skills have improved tremendously. And another one of my goals is just to get out into the city and be more involved with with the city, and create those relationships, build those partnerships, and just teach the community about the game of baseball, and just get them out to the park and watch us play, and maybe they'll fall in love with the game.
Yeah. So, as for me, I just want to see the club grow, right? So I was a little nervous actually this past year. Had the league not made that exception for us, essentially a 30-year-old club would have been gone by the wayside, because we wouldn't have been able to play. So I just want to see the club kind of grow. Right now, this exception works, but I'm afraid that may not always be the case, right? So we've got to find a way to get more German players on our team. As I said before, we play on this makeshift soccer field, right? So we don't. There's a walking trail right next to our field, right? Plenty of people walk their dogs on this trail. It's right there on the edges, right there in downtown. But people don't look at it and see that it's a baseball field. I mean, just something that simple. They walk by our field every day and they don't know that K-Town has a baseball club, and it's been there for 30 years, right? So I don't know how much something like that, just something as simple as getting our own field will help with recruiting, things like that. But yeah, for me, if we can just set conditions to see the club grow, I know they're working with the youth. Frey mentioned a lot of the, Chris and Rob putting a lot of work with the youth, and I hear they're crushing it right now. Our youth are beating the brakes off some other teams in the league. But I want to see them grow because hopefully we can get some young German players in there, kind of build them up, and they take our place. Man, hopefully, I'd like to be in the coaching seat one day and just retire. I retire here in about a year from the military. I like to stay out here, and I would not mind just being completely retired and just helping out the baseball club. Yeah.
That would be fun. I love coaching kids baseball up to high school. I don't know if you noticed my hat, but this is an Annapolis American Legion post 7. I was the general manager and manager for that team, that program for a few years in Annapolis, Maryland, near the Naval Academy. So we had a pretty good program. We were growing, and I just enjoyed being a part of it. So hopefully you guys can create a pipeline like that, and one person won't have to play for 25 years to keep the club sustained. You'll be able to replace and grow and replenish the team.
Exactly.
So do you guys have a routine before and after games? Yeah.
So for me personally, my pregame has changed since I gotten older, right? So, but before younger, used to do the whole, hard music and get ready to get psyched up for the game. Right now, probably my pregame is filled with a lot of stretching, a lot of mobility, and hoping I don't get hurt during the game. But post game is kind of something different here that I haven't really experienced in the States. So, almost after every practice, we make sure we pull out the crate of beer. And we all sit out and just have just one beer, just nothing crazy. But we sit out there and we talk about the team, the club, kind of where we want to take it. And that carries over to the games too. After our games, we'll pack up, head over to the cantina, the concession stand right there at the field, and make sure we have our beer and brat together and just kind of hang out for a little bit. I've been in other situations where game's over, people just go to four corners, and you don't see them until practice or the next game. But we try to have a little bit of that camaraderie, after games. That's me and my pregame, my postgame. Antonio's a little younger. Maybe he has something a little more aggressive that he likes to do before, pregame.
All I do is really, so since I'm half Puerto Rican, I just listen to a lot of reggaeton music before games. That's just, I guess, like a typical Latin pregame ritual. I just want to make sure that my mind's in the right place before a game. I try not to have too many distractions from the outside, and just for those several hours where we're at the field, I just want to be focused. And then after the game, like Alex said, I like to hang out with the guys I want to hang out, drink a beer, talk about the game or talk about practice, future plans. Sometimes you daydream a little bit, but I enjoy doing that because that's just like a good outlet sometimes to just let like your creativity flow and like a little bit, let off a little bit of steam as well in a positive way.
Yeah, so I think for me, the typical hands and feet type drills, but I think as a team this year, like Alex alluded to, and we've talked about before, the team has come closer together. We make sure that we stretch as a team, that we do our warm-ups as a team, because of oftentimes those kids are there watching us, and we are there to setting an example for them, because we practice, our practice is right after theirs. Oftentimes they'll be at our games, and so we try to show them that, hey, to get better, you have to do these things. When the coaches tell you to do these warm ups and stretches, it's for a reason. And so by us, doing that and leading by example, then they're going to say, hey, the grown ups are doing it, the guys are doing it. We have to do it too. And so, and then the post practice, again, we're really have a vested interest in growing the club. And so, yeah, we get together, obviously we do it responsibly, but, we have some really productive conversations, after the practices, after the games, about ways that we can, garner more exposure for the team, and what that's going to take. And so, again, that's something that we kind of this year have focused a little more on, and that's just I would say that's a little bit more of the German culture, just being precise, being methodical, and not being in a rush. They're just, hey, enjoy the moment. Let's enjoy the result, and let's find ways to get better.
Yeah, you're talking about having a beer and brought after the game. I did an episode back in October on Texas German, and I interviewed the German professor at the University of Texas, and he told me he was actually from Germany, and he told me a lot about how there's a lot of connections and similarities between Texas culture and German culture, and with beer and food being a big part of it. So it sounds like you guys are sort of doing a cultural exchange program there with your beer and brats and baseball.
Beer and brats solve a lot of problems, let me tell you.
Maybe that's a promotion right there. Beer brats and baseball, and you'll get you some fans that way.
Yeah.
Put some, let
them
know there's some
triple B's.
Think about that. Yeah. So, what future developments or goals does the team have?
So, as Fraynel already touched on, so I would like for the club to go in a direction where we have a solid club foundation, so that where certain things get a little bit automatized, where it's not too much work to get certain aspects of club life, I guess, going. And then also to recruit more players, obviously also recruit more German players, because that's kind of the goal of baseball in Germany, is to recruit, to introduce them to baseball and get people here, especially in this area, motivated for the sport, and be like, hey man, I want to go play for that club because it looks really fun, or it looks like I can learn a lot. And then also to eventually to get our own field or complex, or kind of our own quarters where we have our field, we take care of it. Everyone's excited to be a part of the club, to take care of that field, make sure it grows, and it grows out into the community, where people are like, oh man, can't wait to drive by there, see if a game's going on. Let me stop by and see who's playing. And eventually, a dream is promote again. We did play higher in the past, but to go back there again. But certain other things have to be fulfilled first before we can reach that goal.
You just made me think about something. You mentioned wanting to recruit more Germans. Have you guys heard of Max Kepler?
Yeah,
Is that a name for you?
I've actually played against him when I was 14 years old.
That's funny. That's interesting. Maybe someday he can come there and visit his family in Germany. So for the listeners who don't know, Max Kepler's mother is from Texas and his father's from Germany. And from what I remember hearing about the story, his parents met. They were both ballet dancers. They met in Germany, got married, and Max's maternal grandparents continued to live in New Braunfels, Texas, and he would come and visit them for the summer, and that's how he learned to play baseball, and then would go back to Germany and play there. And now he's in the major leagues. He plays for the Minnesota Twins. So maybe there's a future Max Kepler out there watching you guys and will take up the sport, and who knows where that might lead him.
Hope there's one in K-Town.
So what advice would you give to someone in the military community who wants to start playing a sport abroad?
Man, just do it. Just get out there. Don't be afraid, right? So I think language barriers tend to keep people back. I mean, we do have the luxury of speaking English, right? So, and a lot of people around the world speak English, right? So that does help us out. But sport in and of itself is such the universal language, right? So you can get out there and just start playing, and someone hits it. Yeah, you got to run on first, and someone hits the shortstop. You're going to try to turn two, no matter what country you're playing baseball in. You're turning two, right? So there's some of these things just transition from country to country, culture to culture, whatever. But just get out there and do it. Don't be afraid. It's too easy to look up nowadays with Facebook, Instagram. Also, just get out there, search. There might be a team in your area, and just get out there and try. You never know if you don't try. But yeah, I think that's my biggest thing is just to get out there and do it. Like I actually thought I would learn more German playing baseball here, but that didn't happen. Everyone speaks English. So, we play these other teams. I'm sitting on first base. Guy gets a single, and I chat him up on first base, and we're talking in English. So don't let the language barrier hold you back. Just get out there and just try. You'll meet some people, get to experience the culture, and that's all good things right there.
Yeah, I'm guessing you probably learn more German when you go out after the games. At least you learn how to pronounce.
I don't go out after the games. That's how rumors start.
All right, the beer you learn. At least you can pronounce the German beers. So, what do you guys want the listeners to learn or to gain from this story in this episode?
So, as a club, we want the listeners to come away from this episode with the appreciation for the K-Town Bears and just the role that we're trying to play within the community and in Germany as a whole. Our hope is that this story gets out and it's listened by not just Americans but Germans as well. Not only for players but for the fans, and that they rally around their local clubs and just continue to provide support to those clubs, and whatever facet they can, whether it's through volunteering or through sponsorship. We want to help grow the game of baseball in Germany. And so, again, any players, right? Not just American, not just Germans, just anyone out there listening. Hey, baseball in Germany exists. I know it's hard to believe, but it does, and we need your help to grow the sport. So, like Alex mentioned, just reach out to the community and find out about your local team so that we can continue to grow the sport.
That's awesome. All right, so I've just got one last question. So, for Americans who are in America, individuals or companies, what can they do to support the efforts there for the baseball, helping grow the baseball program in Germany?
Yeah, so for the individuals in America and those companies in America, obviously, we ask for the support. Again, not just the Kaiserslautern team, but any team out here that's trying to grow the game. You mentioned Max Kepler, and a lot of us here on the team, we have kids that play for the club, and how awesome would it be to see one of these kids at a university at A-ball or even to the major leagues, and in their profile it says that their hometown team was the Kaiserslautern Bears, or a team out here in Germany. And so obviously that's our goal, and that's where we want to get to. But there are some challenges right now that we have to get through with the field and things of that nature. But I mean, we'll take any help that we can get, whether that's from individuals, whether that's from any organizations that want to help, from anybody. Again, just with with a bigger picture in mind, about growing the sport, and then also not to forget that there are kids, American kids out here that may not have the same opportunities as some of those kids in the States. So don't forget about that. We have a robust military community here in Kaiserslautern and in the area. So again, we could use any help we can get.
Okay, that sounds great. That's a good way to wrap it up. So today's guests are Antonio Lopez, Fraynel Mercado, and Alex Torres. Thank you to all three of you for appearing today. And again, thank you for your service to both countries and to the game of baseball. I appreciate you being here today.
Happy to serve, and thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, before I go, I want to send out a huge thank you to my friend Jon Williams for setting up this interview. John, I want you to tell Winston, Willow, and Wiley that I said hello from Texas. I hope they appreciate that. So that's it for this week's episode of Stories from Real Life. Join us again next time for another great storytelling journey. Until then, don't forget to shine your light wherever you go.
That was Stories from Real Life. Join us again next week for another great storytelling journey. See you next time.